My name is Vanessa. I'm 63 years old. I sit in the break room at Morrison and Associates, stirring my coffee with a plastic spoon that keeps bending, watching the steam rise while gospel music hums low from my phone. Yolanda Talbert's "He'll Make a Way" carries me through these morning minutes before the office fills up with chatter and ringing phones. The cocoa butter I rubbed into my hands this morning mingles with the bitter coffee smell, creating something that reminds me of Mama's kitchen on Sunday mornings when she'd make her special brew strong enough to wake the dead. My reflection stares back from the break room window, silver streaks threading through my relaxed hair that I keep pulled back in a neat bun, gold hoops catching the fluorescent light, brown skin that's earned every line around my eyes from 63 years of living. I'm wearing my good navy blazer today, the one Keisha bought me for Christmas 2 years ago because I've got that meeting with Mr. Morrison at 10:30. The one I've been dreading since his secretary, Miss Patricia, called yesterday with that particular tone in her voice. "Vanessa, honey," she'd said, her words careful as walking on ice. "Mr. Morrison wants to see you first thing tomorrow morning. Private meeting." Patricia's been working here longer than anybody except Mr. Morrison himself, and she knows things. The way she said "private meeting" made my stomach clench up like a fist. We both know what Mr. Morrison's private meetings have started to mean since his wife passed last year, and he began looking at the women in this office different, looking at me different. The coffee tastes like burnt water, but I keep sipping because my hands need something to do. Through the break room doorway, I can see Patricia at her desk already, even though it's not quite 8 o'clock. She's got her reading glasses perched on her nose, typing away at something, but I catch her glancing toward Mr. Morrison's closed office door every few minutes. She knows. Lord help us, she knows. My phone buzzes against the Formica table. A text from my daughter Keisha. "Morning, Mama. How's Marcus feeling today? Love you." Marcus, my grandbaby. 16 years old and fighting leukemia like a warrior. But the treatments cost more than my prayers can cover. The insurance helps some, but there's always something. Co-pays, special medications, the experimental therapy his doctors want to try next month that might give him a real chance. $1,500 that might as well be $15,000 the way my bank account looks. I text back. "He's strong, baby. Don't you worry." But worry lives in my chest these days like a second heartbeat, constant and heavy. The break room door swings open, and in walks Denise from accounting, her natural hair twisted up in a colorful head wrap that makes her dark skin glow. She's got her lunch bag in one hand and that particular look on her face that means she's got something to say. "Morning, Sister Vanessa," she says, settling into the chair across from me. The smell of shea butter drifts over from her direction, mixed with something floral. Maybe jasmine oil. "You look like you didn't sleep much." "Sleep's overrated at my age," I tell her. But Denise has known me too long for that kind of deflection. We've worked together for 8 years, shared enough coffee breaks and Friday afternoon conversations for her to read the worry lines around my eyes. She leans forward, lowering her voice. "Patricia told me you got called into Morrison's office this morning. Private meeting." The way she says it makes it clear she knows exactly what that means. "Vanessa, honey, you know what's been happening with the other ladies." "I do know." Sandra from HR, who suddenly decided to pursue other opportunities last month after 15 years with the company. Jennifer from legal, who transferred to the Portland office so fast she left half her personal items in her desk. They both had private meetings with Mr. Morrison first. They both came out looking like they'd seen ghosts. The coffee cup feels warm and solid in my hands, grounding me to this moment, this choice I have to make. "I need this job, Denise. You know I need this job." "I know about Marcus," she says softly. "But honey, there's gotta be another way." What Morrison's doing? She shakes her head, her gold cross necklace catching the light as it moves. It ain't right, and it ain't legal. Legal, like that matters when you're a 63-year-old black woman who needs her paycheck to keep her grandson alive. Like that matters when starting over means months without income. Months of Marcus maybe not getting the treatment he needs because his grandmother couldn't figure out how to be strong enough and smart enough and lucky enough all at the same time. Easy to say when it's not your grandbaby in that hospital bed, I say, and immediately regret the sharpness in my voice. Denise doesn't deserve that. She's trying to help, trying to be a friend, and here I am snapping at her like she's the enemy. I'm sorry, I tell her. I'm scared, Denise. I'm scared of losing this job, and I'm scared of what happens if I don't lose it. She reaches across the table and covers my hand with hers. Her palm is warm and soft, recently moisturized, and there's comfort in that simple touch. You remember what Pastor William said last Sunday? About how God doesn't give us more than we can handle? But sometimes He gives us exactly as much as we can handle, so we'll know to lean on Him? I remember. I was sitting in my usual pew, third row from the front on the left side, listening to Pastor Williams preach about David and Goliath, while Marcus sat beside me, thin and brave in his good church clothes. The morning light was streaming through the stained glass windows, painting everything in blues and golds, and the choir was humming softly behind the pastor's words. Marcus had leaned against my shoulder during the sermon, his weight familiar and precious, and I'd thought about how many Sundays we might have left together. Sometimes I think God's got me confused with somebody stronger, I tell Denise. Or maybe He knows exactly how strong you are, and you just haven't figured it out yet. The break room fills with the sound of the coffee maker gurgling as it starts a fresh pot, and somewhere down the hall, I can hear Mr. Morrison's voice talking to someone on the phone. His laugh carries through the office, loud and confident, the laugh of a man who's never had to choose between his dignity and his family's survival. What would you do? I asked Denise. If it was your family, your grandbaby, what would you do? She's quiet for a long moment, and I watch her face work through the same calculations I've been running in my head for weeks. The same impossible math that never comes out right no matter how you arrange the numbers. I don't know, she finally admits. I honestly don't know. But I know this. Whatever you decide, you're not alone in it. There's other women here who've been watching this situation, who know what's happening. If you decide to speak up, you won't be the only voice. The clock on the break room wall ticks toward 8:15. 15 minutes until the office officially opens. 45 minutes until I have to walk into Mr. Morrison's office and face whatever he's planning to say to me. Whatever he's planning to ask of me. I finish my coffee and stand up, smoothing down my skirt, checking my reflection one more time in the window. The woman looking back at me has survived 63 years of living as a black woman in America. She's buried her husband, raised her children, worked jobs that barely paid enough to get by, and still managed to keep her family together. She sat in hospital waiting rooms and held her grandson's hand through chemotherapy sessions that left him weak and sick, but never broken. Maybe Denise is right. Maybe God knows exactly how strong I am. Or maybe I'm about to find out. The walk to Mr. Morrison's office feels like crossing a minefield. Each step on the burgundy carpet sends vibrations up through my legs, and I can smell the lingering scent of pine sol from where the night cleaning crew mopped the hallways. The overhead lights cast everything in that harsh white glow that makes everyone look sick, but I keep my chin up and my shoulders straight. Mama always said you walk into trouble with your head high, because how you carry yourself is sometimes all the power you got. Patricia's desk sits like a fortress outside Morrison's door, covered in neat stacks of papers and a small African violet that she babies like it's her own child. She looks up when she sees me coming, and I catch the worry flickering across her brown face before she smooths it away. Patricia's been Morrison's secretary for 12 years, longer than anybody else in this office, and she's seen everything. If anybody knows what I'm walking into, it's her. "Morning, honey," she says, but her voice is too bright, like she's trying to paint sunshine over storm clouds. "You look real nice today. That blue brings out your eyes." I'm wearing my good navy dress, the one I save for church and important meetings, with Mama's pearl earrings that she left me when she passed. The dress fits well through the waist, but pulls a little at the hips. I've put on weight since Marcus got sick, stress eating my way through too many late nights at the hospital. The pearls feel cool against my neck, smooth and solid, a reminder of all the strong women who came before me. "Thank you, baby." I smooth down my dress and check my watch. 8:58. "He ready for me?" Patricia glances toward Morrison's closed door, then back at me. She lowers her voice, leaning forward like she's about to share church gossip. "Vanessa, before you go in there, you should know Jennifer called me yesterday." Jennifer from legal, who disappeared to Portland so fast she left her coffee mug still sitting on her desk. My stomach clenches, and I taste that bitter coffee flavor creeping back up my throat. "What did she say?" "She wanted me to know what really happened in her meeting. Said she couldn't live with herself if another woman walked into that room unprepared." Patricia's hands are folded on her desk, her wedding ring catching the light, and I notice she's twisted it around so the diamond faces inward, something she does when she's nervous. "Vanessa, honey, he didn't just talk to her. He made suggestions about ways she could show her gratitude for keeping her job." The words hit me like ice water, even though I already knew. Had to know, somewhere deep down, but hearing it said out loud makes it real in a way that turns my legs to water. I reach for the edge of Patricia's desk to steady myself, feeling the cool wood grain under my palm. "Did she?" I can't finish the question. "She said no, walked right out of that meeting, and started making phone calls to transfer offices that same afternoon." Patricia's voice drops even lower, barely above a whisper. "But Vanessa, she had options. She's young, no kids, her husband makes good money. She could afford to say no." The implication hangs in the air between us like smoke. I can't afford to say no. Not with Marcus's medical bills piling up on my kitchen table at home. Not with the insurance company fighting every treatment his doctors recommend. Not when saying no might mean losing the job that keeps his medicine cabinet full and his hospital bed paid for. Morrison's door opens before I can respond, and there he is, tall and silver-haired, wearing one of his expensive suits that probably costs more than I make in a month. He's got that politician smile pasted on his face, the one that never quite reaches his eyes. "Vanessa, right on time. Please, come in." He steps aside, gesturing for me to enter his office, and I catch a whiff of his cologne. Something woody and expensive that makes me think of funeral homes. "Patricia, hold my calls for the next hour." An hour. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. What does he think is going to happen in an hour? I walk past him into the office, feeling his eyes on me, and I swear I can feel Patricia's prayers following me through that doorway. Morrison's office is all dark wood and leather, with diplomas covering one wall and family photos covering another. There's a picture of his late wife on his desk, a petite white woman with kind eyes who always sent Christmas cards to all the employees. She died of cancer last year, and something in Morrison changed after that. Something that made the women in this office start walking a little faster past his door. "Have a seat, Vanessa." He closes the door behind us with a soft click that sounds loud as thunder in the suddenly quiet room. Can I get you some coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. I sit in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, crossing my ankles the way Mama taught me, keeping my purse in my lap like a shield. The leather is soft and warm under my legs, probably costs more than my monthly rent. And I wonder how many people have sat in this same chair facing this same man with this same sick feeling in their stomachs. Morrison walks around behind his desk but doesn't sit down. Instead, he leans against it, crossing his arms, studying me like I'm a problem he needs to solve. The silence stretches out between us, filled with the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of office life happening beyond these walls. You've been with us a long time, Vanessa, he finally says. 8 years, is it? 9 next month. My voice sounds steadier than I feel, thank God. I started right after my husband passed. That's right. Robert, wasn't it? Good man. I remember him from the company picnics. Morrison's smile turned sympathetic, practiced. And now you're raising your grandson on your own. Marcus, right? How is he doing? The mention of Marcus's name in this man's mouth makes my skin crawl. Like he's got no right to speak my grandbaby's name, not when he's sitting here planning to use Marcus's sickness against me. He's fighting hard, I say, because that's all I ever say about Marcus to people who don't need to know more. Cancer is expensive, Morrison says, and there it is, the trap, laid out neat and simple. Even with insurance, I imagine the bills add up quickly. I don't respond. Can't respond, because anything I say will be giving him ammunition, and I've been in enough battles to know better than to hand my enemy the bullets. I've been thinking, he continues, pushing off from his desk and walking around to my side. He stops just close enough that I can smell his cologne again, that funeral home smell that makes my stomach turn. About your situation, about ways the company might be able to help. Here it comes. The offer that's not really an offer. The choice that's not really a choice. You're a valuable employee, Vanessa. Dependable, discreet. He emphasizes that last word like it means something special. The kind of woman a man can trust with sensitive matters. I keep my eyes focused straight ahead on the family photo on his desk. His wife's face smiles back at me, frozen in time. And I wonder if she knew what kind of man she married. I wonder if she'd be ashamed of what he's become, or if she'd understand that grief can twist a person into something ugly. I've been thinking about creating a new position, Morrison says, his voice dropping lower, more intimate. Executive assistant, higher pay grade, better benefits. The kind of position that could make those medical bills a lot more manageable. My hands clench around my purse strap, and I can feel my grandmother's pearls pressing against my throat. What would this position involve? Oh, the usual administrative duties, but also special projects, evening work sometimes, weekend assignments. He moves closer, and I can feel the heat of his body behind my chair. The kind of work that requires a special relationship between an executive and his assistant. A relationship built on mutual trust and gratitude. The word gratitude hangs in the air like a curse. I know exactly what kind of gratitude he's talking about, and my whole body goes cold despite the warm office air. This is it. This is the moment where I have to choose between my dignity and my grandson's life. But before I can respond, before I can figure out what words might possibly come out of my mouth, there's a sharp knock on the door. Morrison straightens up, irritation flashing across his face. I said no interruptions, Patricia. The door opens anyway, and Patricia sticks her head in, her face flushed with excitement. I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison, but there's a call for Vanessa. It's from the hospital. They said it's urgent about Marcus. The world tilts sideways. Everything else, Morrison, his offer, this terrible choice, disappears as pure terror floods my system. Is he? They wouldn't say over the phone, honey, but they need you there right away. I'm on my feet before I realize I'm moving, grabbing my purse, my mind already racing ahead to the hospital, to Marcus, to whatever crisis is waiting for me there. Morrison's voice follows me as I rush toward the door. Vanessa, we're not finished here. Finished. This conversation will have to wait, I say without turning around. Because whatever game he thinks he's playing, whatever trap he thinks he's set, none of it matters if Marcus is in trouble. Nothing matters except getting to my grandson. Patricia's already holding my coat, and she presses something into my hand as I rush past her desk. It's a piece of paper with a phone number written on it. Jennifer's lawyer, she whispers, just in case. I don't have time to process what that means. I'm already running for the elevator, my heels clicking against the floor, my heart hammering against my ribs like it's trying to break free. The elevator seems to take forever, and when the doors finally open, I'm shaking so hard I can barely press the button for the ground floor. As the building falls away behind me and I rush toward my car, toward the hospital, toward whatever crisis is waiting, I realize something has changed. Morrison's trap is still there, still waiting for me to walk back into it. But now there's something else in the equation. Jennifer's lawyer's number burning in my palm like a lifeline I didn't know I needed. The choice isn't as simple as I thought it was. And maybe, just maybe, that's going to change everything. The drive to the hospital passes in a blur of red lights and horn honks. My hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ache. Every few seconds, I catch myself holding my breath, like somehow keeping air trapped in my lungs might keep Marcus breathing too. The autumn wind whips through my cracked window, carrying the smell of wood smoke from someone's fireplace, and all I can think is how Marcus used to love roasting marshmallows over Mama's old fire pit when he was little. St. Mary's parking garage smells like motor oil and disinfectant, and my heels echo off the concrete walls as I half run toward the elevator. My phone buzzes in my purse. Morrison probably, wanting to finish his disgusting conversation. But I don't even look at it. Nothing exists except getting to Marcus, except making sure my baby is okay. The elevator in the hospital moves like molasses, stopping at every floor, letting in nurses with tired eyes and families clutching coffee cups. A woman about my age gets on at the third floor, her face streaked with tears, and I have to look away because I can't handle seeing my own fear reflected back at me. The air conditioning blows stale hospital air down from the ceiling, and I wrap my coat tighter around myself, even though I'm not really cold. When the doors finally open on the pediatric oncology floor, I'm moving before they're fully apart. The nurse at the station looks up as I approach, her dark skin glowing under the warm lamplight, and I can see recognition in her eyes before I even speak. I'm here for Marcus Williams. They called me, said it was urgent. Mrs. Williams, yes. She stands up, smoothing down her scrubs, and there's something in her expression that makes my stomach drop. Not the look that means death, thank God, but not the look that means everything's fine either. Dr. Patel is waiting for you in room 314. Marcus is stable, but there's been a development. Stable? The word should comfort me, but the way she says development makes my mouth go dry. I nod and start down the hallway, past rooms where other children are fighting their own battles, past families huddled together in waiting areas that smell like vending machine coffee and fear. Room 314's door is cracked open, and I can hear voices inside. Dr. Patel's careful, accented English, and another woman's voice I don't recognize. I pause outside, my hand on the doorframe, trying to prepare myself for whatever's waiting. Grandma V! Marcus's voice cuts through my anxiety like sunshine through clouds. He's sitting up in his hospital bed, bald head shining under the overhead lights, but his eyes are bright and alert. There's color in his cheeks that wasn't there last week, and he's actually smiling. Baby boy. I rush to his bedside, pressing my palm against his forehead, checking his temperature the way mothers and grandmothers have done since time began. His skin is warm, but not feverish, and when he leans into my touch, I feel some of the tension leave my shoulders. Mrs. Williams? Dr. Patel stands up from her chair beside Marcus's bed, and there's a woman with her I've never seen before. White woman in an expensive-looking suit, with papers clutched in her manicured hands. Thank you for coming so quickly. Is he okay? They said it was urgent. Marcus is more than okay, Dr. Patel says, and there's something in her voice that makes me look at her more carefully. Mrs. Williams, I'd like you to meet Sarah Chen from the Children's Cancer Foundation. She has some very good news. The woman in the suit steps forward, extending her hand. Mrs. Williams, it's wonderful to meet you. Marcus has been telling us about his amazing grandmother, who reads him stories and makes the best mac and cheese in the world. I shake her hand automatically, but my eyes keep darting between her and Dr. Patel, trying to understand what's happening. I don't understand. Why was I called? What's the urgent... Grandma V, guess what? Marcus bounces in his bed, his excitement infectious despite my confusion. I got picked. Out of like 1 million kids, I got picked. Picked for what, baby? Sarah Chen opens her folder, and I catch the smell of fresh paper and ink. Mrs. Williams, Marcus has been selected for our foundation's comprehensive care program. It's a pilot program we're launching with only 50 children nationwide, and Marcus's case was flagged by Dr. Patel as an ideal candidate. My legs suddenly feel weak, and I sink into the chair beside Marcus's bed. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Patel says, leaning forward with the first real smile I've seen from her in months, that all of Marcus's medical expenses, current and future, will be covered by the foundation. Not just the basic treatment, but the experimental therapies we've been hoping to try. The specialized medications that insurance won't approve. Everything. The words hit me like a physical force. I stare at Dr. Patel, then at Sarah Chen, then at Marcus, who's grinning at me like he just won the lottery. Which, I suppose, he has. All of it? My voice comes out as barely a whisper. All of it, Sarah confirms. The program covers full medical expenses for the duration of treatment, plus additional support services. Educational tutoring, family counseling if needed, even transportation assistance for appointments. I cover my mouth with my hand, feeling tears start to build behind my eyes. The crushing weight I've been carrying for months, the weight of impossible choices and mounting bills and sleepless nights calculating numbers that never added up, suddenly lifts from my shoulders. There's more, Dr. Patel adds. The foundation wants Marcus to participate in a new treatment protocol that just completed Phase 2 trials. It's showing remarkable results in pediatric cases like his. We're talking about not just remission, Mrs. Williams, but potentially a complete cure. A cure? I look at Marcus, who nods enthusiastically. Dr. Patel says I might get to ring the bell, he says, referring to the bell that children ring when they complete their cancer treatment. And then I can go back to regular school and play soccer again. I'm crying now, tears streaming down my cheeks, but they're good tears for the first time in months. I lean over and pull Marcus into a careful hug, breathing in the smell of hospital soap and little boy sweetness that no amount of medical treatment can wash away. How? I ask, still holding my grandson. How did this happen? Your case was referred to us by someone who knows your family's situation, Sarah Chen explains. Actually, it came through our legal advocacy network. Someone contacted one of our partner attorneys about your circumstances, and when they heard about Marcus's case, they flagged it for our review board. Legal advocacy network? I pull back from Marcus, confusion mixing with my relief. Sarah flips through her papers. A Jennifer Morrison, I believe. She reached out to one of our partner firms about your situation, and they contacted us directly. The world stops spinning for a moment. Jennifer Morrison, Morrison's daughter. The same Jennifer whose lawyer's phone number is still crumpled in my purse. She said she was concerned about the financial pressure your family was facing, Sarah continues, and she wanted to make sure Marcus had access to the best possible care. She specifically mentioned that she was worried about you having to make impossible choices because of medical expenses. My mind races, trying to understand how Morrison's daughter even knows about my situation, about Marcus, and then I remember Patricia mentioning Jennifer's name, the way she pressed that phone number into my palm. Mrs. Williams? Dr. Patel touches my arm gently. Are you all right? I nod, wiping my eyes. Yes, I'm just overwhelmed. This is wonderful news. Incredible news. There are some papers to sign, Sarah says, but nothing complicated. Mostly just enrollment forms and medical release authorizations. Dr. Patel can begin the new treatment protocol as early as next week. As I sign the papers, my hands shaking slightly with emotion, my phone buzzes again in my purse. This time, I glance at it. 3 missed calls from Morrison and a text message that makes my blood run cold. We need to finish our conversation. Don't make me wait too long. But looking at Marcus, chattering excitedly with Dr. Patel about the new treatment, I realize something fundamental has changed. The trap Morrison set for me. The impossible choice between my dignity and my grandson's life. It's gone. Marcus is going to be okay. More than okay. He's going to be cured. Which means I don't need Morrison's dirty money. I don't need his special position or his disgusting offers. I'm free to tell him exactly what I think of his proposition, free to walk away from his trap without looking back. But more than that, I'm starting to understand that I was never as alone in this fight as I thought I was. Jennifer Morrison, a woman I've never met, saw my situation and took action. Patricia has been looking out for me, connecting me with resources I didn't even know existed. Dr. Patel fought to get Marcus into this program. There's a whole network of women working together, making sure families like mine don't fall through the cracks. Grandma V, Marcus says, tugging on my sleeve. Are you happy? I look at his bright eyes, his hopeful smile, and I feel something I haven't felt in months, pure, uncomplicated joy. Yes, baby boy. I'm very happy. Good, he says, settling back against his pillows. Because I was getting worried about you. You've been looking scared lately. Out of the mouths of babes. I smooth his blanket, pressing a kiss to his forehead. I'm not scared anymore, Marcus. Not about anything. And as I say the words, I realize they're true. The fear that's been eating at me for months, the fear of losing Marcus, the fear of not being able to provide for him, the fear of having to compromise everything I believe in to save him, it's gone. What's left in its place is something I haven't felt in a long time. Power. The power that comes from having choices, from not being backed into a corner, from knowing that I don't have to accept the unacceptable. Morrison thinks he has me trapped, thinks my desperation makes me vulnerable to his advances. He's about to learn just how wrong he is. My phone buzzes again. Another text from Morrison. I delete it without reading it. I have more important things to think about than his pathetic games. I have a grandson to celebrate, a miracle to process, and a whole new understanding of what it means to have allies in this world. The war isn't over, but the battlefield has shifted completely in my favor. And tomorrow, when I walk back into Morrison and Associates, I'm going to make sure he understands that some women can't be bought, threatened, or cornered. Some women fight back. The next morning, I wake up with a lightness in my chest I haven't felt since before Marcus got sick. Sunlight streams through my bedroom curtains, warming the hardwood floors Mama polished every Saturday for 30 years before she passed. I can hear Mrs. Washington next door starting her gospel music early. Amazing Grace, floating through the thin walls like a prayer answered. I take my time getting ready, savoring each ritual. The silk scarf sliding off my hair releases the scent of coconut oil I worked through my edges last night. My reflection in the mirror shows a woman transformed, not by makeup or fancy clothes, but by something deeper. The fear that's been living in my shoulders for months has melted away, leaving me standing straighter, breathing deeper. In the kitchen, I make myself a proper breakfast for the first time in weeks. Real coffee, not the instant stuff I've been choking down while rushing to the hospital. Buttered toast with Mama's good strawberry preserves, the kind she put up the summer before she died. The jam tastes like sunshine and memory, sweet enough to make my teeth ache in the best possible way. My phone sits silent on the counter. No buzzing, no demands for attention. I turned off Morrison's number last night after deleting his messages unread. The silence feels like victory. At 8:15, I walk through the doors of Morrison and Associates like I own the place. The carpet beneath my good black pumps feels different somehow. Less like quicksand, more like solid ground. Patricia looks up from her desk, and I catch something new in her expression. Not the worried sympathy she's been wearing for weeks, but something that looks almost like pride. "Morning, Vanessa," she says, her voice carrying undertones I can't quite read. "You look refreshed." I feel it. I pause at her desk, lowering my voice. "Patricia, I need to ask you something. Did you know about Jennifer Morrison reaching out to that cancer foundation?" Patricia's fingers still on her keyboard. She glances toward Morrison's closed office door, then back to me. "I might have mentioned to someone that you were dealing with a difficult situation. Sometimes information finds its way to people who can help." The careful way she phrases it tells me everything. Patricia didn't just give me that lawyer's number randomly. She orchestrated this whole thing, connected the dots between my crisis and Jennifer Morrison's resources. She's been playing chess while I thought we were all just trying to survive. "Patricia, don't thank me yet," she interrupts, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He's been in there since 7 this morning, making phone calls. And honey, none of them sounded pleasant." As if summoned by our conversation, Morrison's office door swings open. He fills the doorway, his presence immediately changing the atmosphere in the room. But for the first time in months, I don't feel that familiar clench of dread in my stomach. Instead, I feel something that might be anticipation. "Vanessa." His voice has that false warmth that makes my skin crawl. "I've been trying to reach you. I was at the hospital with my grandson." I don't elaborate, don't offer explanations or apologies, just facts, delivered in a tone as neutral as morning coffee. "Of course." He steps closer, and I catch the scent of expensive cologne trying to mask something sour underneath. "I hope everything is manageable. These medical situations can be so overwhelming, especially financially." The way he emphasizes financially makes my jaw tighten, but I keep my expression blank. "Actually, everything's working out beautifully. Marcus is starting a new treatment program that's going to take care of everything. Something flickers across Morrison's face. Confusion, maybe irritation. Oh, that's unexpected. I wasn't aware there were other options available. Life's full of surprises. I meet his eyes directly, letting him see that whatever power he thought he had over me has evaporated. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places. Patricia clears her throat. Mr. Morrison, your 9 o'clock is here. But Morrison doesn't move, doesn't acknowledge Patricia's words. His attention is fixed on me with an intensity that would have terrified me yesterday. Today, it just feels pathetic. Vanessa, I think we should continue our conversation from yesterday, in private. The words carry weight, threat, expectation. I don't think that's necessary. I adjust my purse strap, the leather warm against my palm. I believe we covered everything important. I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. My voice cuts through his with surprising strength. I understand that you think my desperation made me vulnerable to your proposition. I understand that you believed financial pressure would force me to compromise my principles, and I understand that you were wrong on both counts. The silence that follows feels electric. Patricia has gone completely still at her desk, her fingers frozen above her keyboard. Morrison's face cycles through several expressions: surprise, anger, calculation. You should be very careful about the assumptions you make, Vanessa. His voice has dropped to something that might be a threat. And about the accusations you level. I'm not making accusations. I step closer to him, close enough that I can see the red veins in his eyes, smell the coffee and something medicinal on his breath. I'm stating facts. You asked me to meet with you privately to discuss my special circumstances. You made it clear that my grandson's medical needs created an opportunity for you to offer me a special position that would help with expenses. You implied that this arrangement would involve services beyond my normal job duties. Each word lands like a physical blow. Morrison's face goes pale, then flushed. That's not... You're misinterpreting... Am I? I tilt my head, my voice staying level and professional. Then perhaps you'd like to clarify exactly what kind of special position you had in mind? What specific duties would justify the significant salary increase you mentioned? I'm sure Patricia would be interested to hear about this new role, since she handles all the personnel files. Patricia's chair creaks as she turns slightly, her attention now fully focused on our conversation. Morrison glances at her, then back to me, and I watch him realize that his private little scheme has become very public very quickly. This is highly inappropriate, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. Yes, I agree. It absolutely is. The front door chimes, and a woman in an expensive suit walks in. Morrison's 9 o'clock appointment, I assume. She takes in the scene, Morrison backed against his office doorframe, me standing my ground in the middle of the reception area, Patricia watching everything with sharp attention. Mr. Morrison? The woman's voice is crisp, professional. I'm Janet Rodriguez from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We have an appointment to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention. The color drains completely from Morrison's face. His eyes dart to me, then to Patricia, then back to the EEOC investigator. There must be some mistake. I don't have any appointment scheduled with... Actually, you do. Patricia's voice is steady as she flips through her appointment book. 9 o'clock, Janet Rodriguez, EEOC. I confirmed it yesterday afternoon. Morrison stares at Patricia like he's seeing her for the first time. When did I schedule an appointment you didn't authorize? Patricia's smile is sweet as poisoned honey. About the same time I started documenting the complaints from female employees about changes in workplace environment, and inappropriate behavior from management. The puzzle pieces click together in my mind with almost audible precision. Patricia hasn't just been helping me, she's been building a case. All those worried conversations, those careful questions about whether I was comfortable, whether I'd noticed changes in Morrison's behavior toward women. She wasn't just being supportive, she was gathering evidence. Mrs. Williams? Janet Rodriguez extends her hand to me. I believe we spoke on the phone yesterday evening. Thank you for agreeing to speak with me. I shake her hand, my mind reeling. Yes, of course. Morrison looks like a man watching his world crumble in real time. This is ridiculous. Vanessa, surely you don't want to jeopardize your position here over some misunderstanding? The only thing I want to jeopardize, I interrupt, is your ability to put other women in the position you tried to put me in. Janet Rodriguez nods approvingly. Shall we start with your office, Mr. Morrison? I'd like to review some documents, and then we'll need to conduct interviews with several staff members. As they disappear into Morrison's office, I sink into the chair beside Patricia's desk, my legs suddenly unsteady. The adrenaline that carried me through the confrontation is fading, leaving me shaky but exhilarated. Patricia, I whisper, what did you do? She leans closer, her voice low. What I should have done months ago. What I should have done the first time I heard him make a comment about your assets being wasted in accounting. What I should have done when he started talking about helping you with your family situation in exchange for flexibility. You heard him say those things? Honey, I hear everything that goes on in this office. And I document everything too. She taps a thick folder on her desk. Dates, times, witnesses when available? The way he's been talking about you, about Sarah in marketing, about the new girl in reception, it's been building for months. But why now? Why today? Patricia's smile is fierce. Because yesterday, you walked in here looking like a woman who'd been beaten down by circumstances, and today, you walked in looking like a woman who remembered her own power. And I figured if you were ready to fight back, you shouldn't have to do it alone. Through Morrison's office window, I can see him gesticulating wildly while Janet Rodriguez takes notes. His voice rises occasionally, but the words are muffled by the glass. What happens now? I ask. Now we let the process work. The EEOC will investigate, interview other employees, review company policies. If they find evidence of a hostile work environment or quid pro quo harassment, and trust me, they will, there'll be consequences. What kind of consequences? For Morrison, could be anything from mandatory training and supervision to termination and civil penalties. For the company, they'll have to implement new policies, provide training, maybe pay damages. Patricia's expression grows serious. For you? Well, that depends on what you want. What do you mean? I mean, you have options now, real options. You could stay and help rebuild this place into somewhere women feel safe working. You could take a settlement and find something better. You could pursue legal action independently. She pauses. The point is, you get to choose. He doesn't get to choose for you anymore. The office door opens, and Janet Rodriguez emerges with a briefcase full of documents. Morrison follows, looking like a man who's aged 10 years in 30 minutes. Mrs. Williams, Janet says, would you be available to speak with me privately this afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock? Of course. Excellent. And Patricia, thank you for your cooperation. The documentation you've provided will be invaluable. After Janet leaves, the office falls into an uncomfortable silence. Morrison stands in his doorway, looking at Patricia and me like we're strangers who've invaded his space. I hope you both understand what you've done, he says finally. We do. My voice is steady, certain. We've made sure that what you tried to do to me can't happen to anyone else." He starts to respond, then seems to think better of it. He retreats into his office and closes the door with more force than necessary. Patricia and I sit in the quiet for a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of Morrison on the phone, probably calling his lawyer. "Vanessa," Patricia says quietly, "are you okay? Really okay?" I consider the question seriously. Yesterday morning, I was trapped between an impossible choice and a desperate situation. Today, Marcus has access to the treatment he needs. Morrison's threats have no power over me, and I'm part of something bigger than my own survival. "I'm better than okay," I tell her. "I'm free." And for the first time in months, that's not just hope talking. It's the truth. The drive home passes in a blur of autumn light filtering through maple leaves, and by the time I pull into my driveway, the adrenaline has completely drained from my system. My hands shake slightly as I turn off the engine, and I sit for a moment in the sudden quiet, listening to the tick of cooling metal and the distant sound of Mrs. Henderson's wind chimes singing in the breeze 2 houses down. Inside, my house feels different somehow. Not changed, exactly, but like I'm seeing it through new eyes. The framed photo of Marcus at his 8th grade graduation still sits on the side table, his gap-toothed grin identical to the one his daddy wore at that age. The African violet Mama gave me before she passed still blooms purple in the kitchen window, stubborn and beautiful despite my inconsistent care. Everything is exactly as I left it this morning, but I am not the same woman who walked out that door. I need to move, need to do something with my hands to process what just happened. In the kitchen, I pull ingredients from the refrigerator without conscious thought. A package of smoked turkey necks, fresh collard greens from the farmer's market, yellow onions that still have dirt clinging to their papery skin. Cooking has always been my meditation, the way I think through problems and find my center. The turkey necks go into my big pot first, covered with water that I season with bay leaves and black peppercorns. As the water begins to simmer, filling the kitchen with the rich, smoky scent of meat and herbs, I strip the collard greens from their thick stems, tearing the leaves into manageable pieces. The repetitive motion soothes me. Tear, discard stem, tear again. Mama taught me to clean greens properly, to check every leaf for bugs and grit, to wash them 3 times in cold water until the sink runs clear. While the greens soak, I dice onions, and the sharp bite makes my eyes water. Good. I need to cry, need to release some of the tension that's been building in my chest all day. The tears feel cleansing, washing away months of fear and compromise and swallowed anger. The kitchen fills with the sounds of home cooking, the gentle bubble of simmering broth, the sizzle of onions hitting hot oil in my cast iron skillet, the rhythmic thunk of my knife against the cutting board. From the living room, I can hear the gospel station playing softly, Mahalia Jackson singing "Precious Lord" in that voice that sounds like it carries all the sorrows and joys of our people. As I add the cleaned greens to the pot, watching them wilt down from a mountain to a manageable pile, I think about Patricia's words. You get to choose. He doesn't get to choose for you anymore. The weight of that truth settles into my bones like warmth from good food. I've been carrying so much for so long. Marcus's medical bills, the mortgage on this house that holds 3 generations of memories, the careful balance of pride and necessity that kept me in that job even when Morrison's behavior made my skin crawl. But today, something shifted. Today, I remembered that survival doesn't have to mean submission. The greens need to cook low and slow, so I cover the pot and turn the heat down, then move to the living room where Mama's quilting frame still sits in the corner. I haven't touched it since she passed, couldn't bear to see her last project half finished. But today, I find myself drawn to it. The pattern is wedding ring, made from scraps of fabric that tell the story of our family. A piece of Marcus's first school shirt, fabric from my wedding dress, a corner of the tablecloth we used for every Sunday dinner. I run my fingers over Mama's tiny, perfect stitches, feeling the raised texture of thread against cotton. She used to say that quilting taught you patience, that you couldn't rush the process or the stitches would be uneven, the pattern would be off. "Life's like that too, baby girl," she'd tell me, her needle flashing in and out of the fabric. "Sometimes you got to trust that all these pieces will come together into something beautiful, even when you can't see the whole pattern yet." The smell of greens cooking draws me back to the kitchen, where I add a splash of apple cider vinegar to brighten the flavor, and a pinch of red pepper flakes for heat. The kitchen is warm now, filled with the kind of comfort that comes from food made with love and intention. I taste the pot liquor, that rich, dark broth that's better than any medicine, and adjust the seasoning with salt and a touch of brown sugar. While the greens finish cooking, I pull out my phone and scroll through the missed calls from Morrison. 15 of them, plus a string of text messages that start demanding and grow increasingly desperate. I delete them without reading most of them. His voice, his demands, his threats, they have no power over me now. Instead, I call Marcus at the hospital. His voice when he answers sounds stronger than it has in weeks, and the relief in it makes my chest tight. "Mama, Dr. Williams came by this morning. She said the new treatment is working better than they expected. My numbers are improving already." "That's wonderful, baby. I'm so proud of how brave you've been through all this." "Mama, are you okay? You sound different. Good different, but different." I laugh, surprised by how light the sound is. "I'm better than okay, Marcus. I made some changes today that are going to be good for both of us." "What kind of changes?" "The kind that mean you don't have to worry about anything except getting well. The kind that mean I don't have to accept unacceptable things anymore." We talk for a few more minutes, and when I hang up, I feel that lightness spreading through my whole body. The greens are perfect now, tender but not mushy, seasoned with layers of flavor that develop only through patience and care. I fix myself a bowl, adding a dollop of hot sauce and a piece of cornbread left over from yesterday. The first bite transports me to Sunday dinners at Mama's house, to the sound of family laughter and the smell of love made tangible through food. But it also tastes like something new, like possibility, like the future I'm choosing for myself and my son. As evening settles over the neighborhood, I sit on my front porch with my bowl of greens, watching the streetlights flicker on and listening to the sounds of life around me. Children playing in the yard across the street. Someone practicing piano scales in the house next door. The distant rumble of the train that runs through downtown. The autumn air is crisp against my skin, carrying the scent of wood smoke and dying leaves. My phone rings, and for a moment my stomach tightens, thinking it might be Morrison again. But it's Patricia's number on the screen. "How are you holding up?" she asks without preamble. "I'm good, really good. Cooking greens and processing everything that happened today." "That sounds perfect. Listen, I wanted you to know, after you left, 3 other women came forward. Sarah from marketing, the new receptionist, and even Ms. Johnson from HR. Apparently, your courage gave them permission to speak their truth too." I close my eyes, feeling the weight of that responsibility and privilege. I'm glad. No one should have to carry that alone. Janet Rodriguez said she's seen cases like this before, where one person's bravery creates a domino effect. She thinks Morrison will be terminated within the week, and the company will likely offer settlements to everyone affected. And you? Are you going to be okay? He can't retaliate against you for helping with the investigation? Patricia's laugh is warm and knowing. Honey, I've been documenting his behavior so thoroughly that if he even looks at me wrong, he'll have another EEOC complaint on his hands. Plus, I've got 30 years of seniority and an impeccable record. He needs to worry about himself, not me. After we hang up, I sit in the growing darkness, feeling the day settle into my bones like good food. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. Meetings with lawyers, probably, and difficult conversations about what comes next. But tonight, I am exactly where I need to be. In my own space, surrounded by the smells and sounds of home, no longer carrying the weight of someone else's expectations or threats. I think about Marcus, getting stronger every day in his hospital bed, and about the other women who found their voices today, because I found mine. I think about Mama's quilt, waiting to be finished, and about the pattern I'm creating in my own life. Not perfect, maybe, but made with intention and love, and the kind of courage that grows from knowing your own worth. The greens are gone now, and the bowl sits empty in my lap, but the satisfaction lingers. Some hungers, I realize, can only be fed by refusing to accept less than you deserve. Some forms of nourishment come not from what you consume, but from what you choose to release. Tomorrow, I'll wake up as a woman who stood up for herself and others. Tonight, I'm just grateful to be home, to be free, to be exactly who I was always meant to be. The next morning arrives with the sound of rain against my windows and the rich aroma of coffee brewing in my kitchen. I've been up since 5:30, unable to sleep past the first hint of dawn, my mind turning over everything that's shifted in the last 24 hours. The ceramic mug warms my palms as I stand at the kitchen window, watching water streak down the glass and thinking about how different this Tuesday feels from yesterday's Monday. My phone has been mercifully quiet. No calls from Morrison, though I suspect that has more to do with whatever conversations he had with Janet Rodriguez yesterday evening than with any newfound respect for boundaries. Patricia texted me at 6 this morning. Company meeting at 9 a.m. All hands. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. I choose my navy blue dress, the one with the bold African print belt that Keisha gave me for my birthday last year. The fabric feels substantial against my skin, like armor made of confidence. I wrap my hair in a matching head wrap, the silk smooth under my fingers as I work it into the crown style Mama taught me when I was 12. In the mirror, I see a woman who looks ready for whatever comes next. The drive to Morrison and Associates feels different this morning. The autumn trees are brilliant in the gray light, their leaves the color of fire and honey, and I find myself noticing details I've missed during 20 years of this same commute. The way the old oak by the courthouse has grown to embrace the street lamp. The faded mural on the side of Turner's Hardware that shows children of every shade playing together. It's like I'm seeing my own city with new eyes. The office parking lot is fuller than usual for 9 in the morning. Through the glass doors, I can see people clustered in the lobby, their voices creating a low hum of speculation and concern. My stomach tightens as I walk through those doors, but it's not the sick dread of yesterday. This feels more like the tension before a storm breaks, uncomfortable but necessary. Patricia catches my eye from behind the reception desk and gives me a subtle nod. She's wearing her good earrings, the gold ones shaped like tiny African masks, and her lipstick is the deep burgundy she saves for important occasions. Seeing her dressed for battle makes me stand a little straighter. Vanessa! Sarah from marketing appears at my elbow, her voice low and urgent. She's younger than me, maybe 35, with natural hair she wears in a perfectly sculpted afro. Can I talk to you for a minute? We step into the small break room, where the smell of burned coffee mingles with the lingering scent of someone's leftover fish from yesterday's lunch. Sarah closes the door behind us and turns to face me, her dark eyes serious. "I wanted to thank you," she says, her words coming out in a rush. "For yesterday. For being brave enough to go first. You don't have to thank me for doing what I should have done months ago." "But I do." She wraps her arms around herself, and I can see the effort it takes for her to hold my gaze. "He cornered me in the supply closet 3 weeks ago, pressed himself against me and said things I won't repeat. I was so scared, so ashamed. I thought maybe I had done something to encourage it." The familiar rage flares in my chest, hot and clean. "You didn't do anything wrong. None of us did." I know that now. Talking to Janet yesterday, hearing that other women had the same experiences, it helped me understand that this wasn't about me. It was about him and his need to make women feel small and afraid. Through the break room's small window, I can see employees gathering in the main conference room. The morning light catches on the glass-topped table, where I've sat through countless meetings, planning marketing campaigns and quarterly reviews and holiday parties. It looks different now, like a place where important things happen instead of just another room where I performed the careful dance of professional politeness. "Are you scared about the meeting?" Sarah asks. "Yes," I admit, but not the same kind of scared I was yesterday morning. Yesterday, I was afraid of what might happen if I spoke up. Today, I'm afraid of what might happen if we don't see this through all the way. Sarah nods, understanding passing between us like a current. "Janet Rodriguez called me last night. She said they're bringing in someone from corporate headquarters. Someone who specializes in situations like this." Before I can respond, Patricia's voice comes over the intercom. "All staff to the main conference room, please. All staff to the main conference room." We walk down the hallway together, our heels creating a steady rhythm on the polished linoleum. The conference room is packed, every chair filled and people standing along the walls. I recognize most faces. Coworkers I've shared coffee with, complained about deadlines with, celebrated birthdays with. But there are also 2 women I don't know. One in a sharp gray suit, who's clearly from corporate, and another in a softer blue dress who has the careful, observant manner of someone trained to handle sensitive situations. Morrison is nowhere to be seen. Janet Rodriguez stands at the head of the table, her usually perfect composure showing small cracks around the edges. She clears her throat, and the room falls silent except for the sound of rain against the windows and the distant hum of traffic. "Thank you all for coming in early this morning. I know this is unusual, and I appreciate your flexibility." She pauses, her gaze sweeping across the room. "As some of you may be aware, serious allegations have been brought to my attention regarding inappropriate workplace conduct. After a preliminary investigation yesterday evening, the board has decided to take immediate action." The woman in the gray suit steps forward, her voice crisp and professional. "I'm Margaret Chen from Morrison & Associates Corporate Office. Effective immediately, Mr. Morrison has been placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation into multiple complaints of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment." A collective intake of breath fills the room. Someone behind me whispers, "Finally!" And I feel a tremor of vindication run through my body like warm honey. Margaret Chen continues, "We want to be absolutely clear that this company has zero tolerance for harassment of any kind. We also want to assure all employees that there will be no retaliation against anyone who comes forward with information relevant to this investigation." The woman in blue takes over, introducing herself as Dr. Lisa Washington, a workplace consultant who specializes in helping organizations heal after traumatic situations. Her voice is warm but firm, like a mother who loves you enough to tell you hard truths. Over the next several days, I'll be conducting confidential interviews with staff members. Participation is voluntary, but I encourage anyone who has experienced or witnessed inappropriate behavior to share their story. This process is about creating accountability and ensuring a safe workplace for everyone. I feel Sarah's hand brush mine, a gesture of solidarity that sends strength up my arm. Around the room, I can see other women making eye contact, nodding slightly, forming the beginning of a network of support that wasn't there yesterday morning. Janet Rodriguez speaks again, her voice steadier now. In the interim, Patricia Williams will be serving as interim office manager, with full authority to make day-to-day operational decisions. We expect this transition to be smooth and professional. Patricia stands a little straighter, and I see pride flash across her features. 30 years of competence and quiet leadership are finally being recognized, and not just because a crisis demanded it. As the meeting breaks up, people cluster in small groups, their voices low but animated. I overhear fragments. About time. My friend at Henderson & Co. said, "Wonder what will happen to his clients." Dr. Washington approaches me, her smile genuine and encouraging. "Ms. Johnson, I understand you were instrumental in bringing these issues to light. Would you have time to speak with me this afternoon?" "Yes, of course." "Thank you. I want you to know that what you did yesterday took tremendous courage. In my experience, it often takes one person willing to step forward before others feel safe enough to share their own experiences." As she walks away, I realize that the tight knot of anxiety I've carried in my chest for months is finally beginning to loosen. Not gone. There's still the investigation to get through, still the challenge of rebuilding trust and safety in this workplace, but loosened enough that I can breathe deeply for the first time in longer than I can remember. The morning passes in a blur of whispered conversations and careful normalcy. People work at their desks, answer phones, attend to the daily business of the office, but there's an undercurrent of electricity, of change happening in real time. I catch glimpses of other women throughout the day, a nod from the new receptionist, a smile from Miss Johnson in HR, a thumbs up from Sarah when she passes my cubicle. At lunch, Patricia and I sit in her car in the parking lot, sharing a container of leftover fried chicken she brought from home. The rain has stopped, and weak sunlight filters through the clouds, making everything look washed clean and new. "How are you feeling about all this?" she asks, pulling apart a drumstick with practiced efficiency. "Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop," I admit. It feels too easy, too fast. 20 years of tiptoeing around his moods and inappropriate comments, and then boom, one day and he's gone? Honey, it wasn't one day. It was 20 years of documentation, of small incidents that added up to a pattern. It was women like Sarah and the others finally feeling safe enough to speak up. It was you having the courage to light the match, but the kindling was already there. She's right, and I know it. The chicken is perfectly seasoned, the coating crispy despite being reheated, and it tastes like comfort and celebration all at once. We eat in companionable silence for a few minutes, watching other employees come and go from the building. "What do you think will happen to the company?" I ask. Honestly, I think this might be the best thing that could have happened. Morrison was brilliant at bringing in clients, but he was terrible at managing people. The turnover rate in our department has been ridiculous. Good people leaving because they couldn't stand working for him. Projects suffering because he was more interested in playing power games than focusing on the work. She crumples up her napkin and looks directly at me. I've been here longer than anyone except Morrison himself. I've seen this place at its best and its worst. Yesterday felt like the worst, but today feels like maybe we can find our way back to the best. When we return to the office, I find a note on my desk asking me to come to conference room B at 2 o'clock for my interview with Dr. Washington. The afternoon drags by, minutes moving like cold molasses, until finally it's time. Conference room B is smaller than the main room, more intimate, with soft lighting and a round table instead of the imposing rectangular one where Morrison used to hold court. Dr. Washington has arranged the chairs so we're sitting at an angle to each other, rather than directly across from each other. A detail that immediately puts me at ease. "Before we begin," she says, pulling out a digital recorder, "I want to explain the process. This conversation is confidential within the parameters of the investigation. I'll be taking notes and recording our session, but the information will only be shared with the investigating team and corporate leadership as necessary to resolve this situation." I nod, my hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. "Can you tell me about your experience working with Mr. Morrison?" And so I begin to talk. I tell her about the early years, when he was different, demanding but fair, focused on the work, rather than on exerting control over his female employees. I tell her about the gradual changes after his wife died, the way his comments became more personal, more inappropriate. I describe the meeting he requested yesterday morning, the fear that had kept me awake the night before, the conversation with Patricia that finally gave me the courage to act. Dr. Washington listens without interrupting, occasionally nodding or making notes, her expression compassionate but professional. When I finish, she sits quietly for a moment, as if giving space for anything else I might need to say. "Thank you for sharing that with me," she finally says. "I know it's not easy to talk about these experiences, especially when they involve someone in a position of power over you." "What happens now?" "Now we gather all the information, document the patterns of behavior, and make recommendations to the board. Based on what I've heard so far, I expect this investigation to move quickly. Companies that take these situations seriously tend to act decisively once they have a clear picture of what's been happening." As I walk back to my desk, I feel lighter than I have in months. Not because the situation is resolved. There's still work to be done, still difficult conversations ahead. But because the truth is finally out in the open, no longer a weight I have to carry alone. The rest of the afternoon passes quietly. At 5 o'clock, I pack up my things and head for the parking lot, surprised to find Sarah waiting by my car. "I wanted to catch you before you left," she says. "I had my interview with Dr. Washington this afternoon, too. It felt good to finally tell someone in authority what happened." "How do you think it went?" "She believed me. That sounds like such a simple thing, but it's not. She believed me, and she took notes, and she asked good questions. It felt like someone was finally taking this seriously." We stand together in the parking lot as other employees head to their cars, the workday ending in a way that feels both ordinary and revolutionary. The air is crisp and clean after the morning's rain, carrying the scent of wet leaves and the distant promise of winter. "Do you think things will really change?" Sarah asks. I consider her question, thinking about the morning's meeting, about Patricia's new role, about the way the other women in the office have been making eye contact and nodding at each other all day. "I think they already have," I say finally. "Not everything, not all at once, but something fundamental shifted yesterday, and there's no going back from that." As I drive home, I think about calling Marcus to tell him about my day, but then I decide to wait. Tonight, I want to sit with this feeling of change and possibility. I want to cook something that takes time and attention. Maybe Mama's beef stew, the kind that simmers all evening and fills the house with the smell of home and patience and love made tangible. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new conversations, new steps in the process of healing and rebuilding. But tonight, I am driving home as a woman who stood up not just for herself, but for other women, who helped create space for truth-telling and accountability. The evening light is golden and forgiving, and for the first time in months, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. The next morning arrives with the kind of clarity that only comes after storms pass through. I'm standing at my kitchen counter, steam rising from my coffee mug, when my phone buzzes with a text from Patricia. Board meeting moved to 8 a.m. They want results fast. Stay strong, sister. I dress carefully in my navy suit. Mama always said navy blue was the color of authority and truth, and arrive at the office to find the parking lot fuller than I've ever seen it on a Thursday morning. Cars I don't recognize sit alongside the familiar ones, and I spot the corporate logo on several license plate frames. The big guns are here. Inside, the energy is electric with tension. Women cluster near the coffee station, voices low but urgent. I catch fragments. 3 more came forward yesterday. Legal team from Atlanta? They're not playing around. Vanessa. Patricia appears at my elbow, her face tight with controlled excitement. Conference room A, now. They want to see you before the board meeting starts. My stomach drops. What kind of they? The good kind, she says, guiding me through the maze of desks where everyone pretends not to be watching. Corporate investigators, board members, legal. The cavalry, honey. The cavalry. Conference room. A has been transformed into a war room. Charts cover the walls, laptops glow on every surface, and 5 people in expensive suits turn toward me as I enter. Dr. Washington rises from her seat at the head of the table, her smile warm, but businesslike. Vanessa, thank you for coming in early. I'd like you to meet Janet Rodriguez, Vice President of Human Resources for the parent company, and David Chen, our corporate legal counsel. Janet Rodriguez has the kind of presence that fills a room. Silver hair pulled back severely, eyes that miss nothing, handshake firm enough to crack walnuts. Ms. Jenkins, your interview yesterday was instrumental in helping us understand the scope of this situation. We have some follow-up questions, if you're comfortable proceeding. The leather chair creaks as I settle into it, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Through the windows, I can see Morrison's office, dark, empty, his nameplate already gone from the door. The sight sends a chill of satisfaction down my spine. Where is Mr. Morrison? I ask. Administrative leave, effective immediately, David Chen responds, his voice carrying the crisp authority of expensive legal training. We implemented interim protective measures last night after completing our preliminary interviews. Ms. Martinez is serving as acting director until the board determines next steps. Patricia. Of course it's Patricia. The woman who's held this place together for 15 years while Morrison took the credit. The irony tastes like victory, bitter and sweet at the same time. We've identified a pattern, Dr. Washington continues, spreading papers across the polished table. 12 women have come forward with similar experiences spanning the past 18 months. Your testimony provided crucial corroboration for incidents that might otherwise have been dismissed as isolated complaints. 12 women. The number hits me like cold water. I think of Sarah, of the new girl in accounting whose name I never learned, of faces around the office that have looked increasingly strained over the past year. We were never alone, any of us, but we carried our fears in isolation like stones in our pockets. What happens to us now? I ask, the question scraping against my throat. The women who spoke up? Janet Rodriguez leans forward, her expression fierce with protective energy. You continue working if you choose to. Morrison's employment is terminated, effective today. We're implementing new reporting structures, mandatory training, and an anonymous feedback system. Most importantly, we're promoting from within, people who understand this company's culture and have earned the trust of their colleagues. The morning sun streams through the conference room windows, warming the air that smells of fresh coffee and printer toner, and the faint lavender scent from Janet Rodriguez's perfume. I breathe deeply, feeling something loosen in my chest that's been tight for months. "There's something else," Dr. Washington says, consulting her notes. "We're offering counseling services through our employee assistance program, and we're establishing a victim advocacy fund. The company takes full responsibility for allowing this situation to continue, and we're committed to making meaningful reparations." Reparations. The word carries weight beyond its corporate meaning, echoing with the deeper history of acknowledgement and repair that my people have been seeking for generations. Here, in this small space, justice is actually happening. A knock interrupts us, and Patricia steps into the room carrying a manila folder thick with papers. "The documentation you requested," she says to Janet Rodriguez, then catches my eye. "The board's ready for you upstairs." As we ride the elevator to the executive floor, a place I've never been in 15 years of working here, I think about Mama's stories of the women in our family who came before. Great-grandmother Essie, who cleaned white folks' houses and saved every penny to buy her own land. Grandmother Ruth, who integrated the local library by simply walking in and checking out books until they got tired of calling the police. Mama herself, who worked 2 jobs to put me through college and never let me believe there was anything I couldn't do. They're all here with me as the elevator doors open onto plush carpet and mahogany-paneled walls. Their strength runs through my veins. Their courage straightens my spine. Their voices whisper in my ear. "Tell the truth, baby girl. Tell it all." The boardroom is intimidating in the way expensive spaces are meant to be. Oil paintings of stern-faced men, a conference table that could seat 20, windows overlooking the city where I've lived my entire life. 7 board members sit at the far end, their faces serious but not unkind. "Ms. Jenkins," the chairman says, rising as I enter. "Thank you for your courage in coming forward. Your actions have protected not only yourself, but countless other women. Please, have a seat." They ask me to tell my story one more time, and I do. Every detail, every uncomfortable moment, every night I lay awake wondering if I was overreacting or if my instincts were right. My voice grows stronger with each word, fed by the knowledge that this time, people are listening who have the power to act. When I finish, the silence stretches for a long moment. Then the chairman speaks, his words carrying the weight of institutional authority. "Ms. Jenkins, on behalf of this board and this company, I offer you our deepest apology. We failed in our duty to provide you and your colleagues with a safe workplace. That failure ends today." The rest of the meeting passes in a blur of legal language and procedural details, but the core message is clear. Morrison is gone, changes are coming, and the women who spoke up are heroes, not troublemakers. As I walk back to my desk, the familiar hallways seem different. Brighter, more spacious, as if the air itself has been cleared of something toxic. Colleagues nod and smile, some reaching out to touch my arm or whisper, "Thank you," as I pass. At my desk, I find a small bouquet of flowers. Nothing fancy, the kind you buy at the grocery store. But the card makes my eyes water. "From the women in accounting. We couldn't have done this without you." I sit down and turn on my computer, ready to do the work I've always done, but in a world that suddenly feels full of possibility. The phone rings, and for the first time in months, I answer it without a flutter of anxiety. "Morrison and Associates, this is Vanessa." "Actually," Patricia's voice comes through the speaker, warm with laughter. "It's Martinez and Associates now. The board just made it official. How does that sound to you?" Perfect, I think, watching the morning light dance across my desk. It sounds perfect. The afternoon stretches before me like uncharted territory, familiar yet completely transformed. I'm still at my desk, still answering phones and processing invoices, but everything feels different. The weight of secrets lifted. The toxic cloud that's hung over this office finally cleared away. Around 3 o'clock, my phone buzzes with a text from my daughter Keisha. "Mama, can you come by tonight? Need to talk." My stomach clenches. After everything that's happened today, the victory, the vindication, the sense that justice has finally been served, I'm not ready for another crisis. But Keisha's my baby, and when she needs me, nothing else matters. I finish up my work, the familiar rhythm of filing and organizing somehow soothing after the morning's intensity. The office has settled into a quiet hum, people processing what happened, what it means for all of us moving forward. Patricia stops by my desk around 4:30, her silver hair catching the late afternoon light streaming through the windows. "You heading out soon?" she asks, perching on the edge of my desk like she's done 1,000 times before. But today, it feels different. Like we're conspirators who've won a war together. "In a bit, Keisha wants to see me." I save the document I'm working on, the soft click of the mouse loud in the quiet office. You know how it is with kids. They need you whether they're 7 or 37. Patricia laughs, the sound rich and knowing. "Girl, tell me about it. My youngest called me crying last week because her boyfriend broke up with her, and she's 42 years old with 3 kids of her own. But we're still mama, aren't we?" The familiar weight of motherhood settles around my shoulders like mama's old quilt. Warm, comforting, but also heavy with responsibility. No matter how old they get, no matter what victories we claim in our own lives, our children's pain becomes our pain. Their struggles, our struggles. I gather my things. Purse, sweater, the small bouquet from the accounting women that I want to take home and put in water. The flowers smell like hope, if hope had a scent, fresh and clean and full of possibility. As I walk toward the elevator, I pass Morrison's old office. The door stands open, and I can see maintenance workers already removing his personal items, boxing up the remnants of his reign. Janet Rodriguez emerges from the office carrying a stack of files, her professional demeanor softened by something that looks like relief. She sees me and stops, setting down the files to extend her hand. "Vanessa, I wanted to thank you again. What you did today, it took tremendous courage." Her handshake is firm, her palm slightly damp with the residual stress of the day. "I also wanted you to know that the board has approved a promotion for you. Senior Administrative Coordinator with a 20% salary increase. You've more than earned it." The words hit me like a physical force, making me grip the elevator rail for support. After 15 years of being overlooked, of watching less qualified people, mostly men, advance past me, recognition feels almost foreign. The elevator dings softly as it arrives, and I step inside with Janet, my reflection in the polished steel doors showing a woman I'm still learning to recognize. Stronger, more assured, claiming space I've always deserved. "Thank you," I manage, my voice thick with emotion. "That means more than you know." As I drive home through streets I've traveled for decades, everything looks different through the lens of this new reality. The corner store where I buy my groceries, the church where Mama's funeral was held, the school where Keisha learned to read. All of it feels more vivid, more mine somehow. Like I've finally claimed my place in this world instead of just passing through it. But as I pull into Keisha's driveway, anxiety creeps back in. Her house looks the same. The small brick ranch she bought 5 years ago. The garden she tends with the same fierce attention she gives everything in her life. But something about the way the curtains are drawn, the single light burning in the living room window, tells me this isn't a celebration visit. I knock on the front door, the sound echoing against wood that needs repainting. Keisha opens it immediately, like she's been waiting by the window. Her beautiful face is drawn with exhaustion, her natural hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she's wearing the old Howard University sweatshirt she puts on when she needs comfort. "Mama," she says, and falls into my arms like she did when she was 7 and had a nightmare. I hold her on the front porch, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. Coconut oil and something uniquely hers that I could recognize in a crowd of thousands. Over her shoulder, I see her neighbor Mrs. Chen peeking through her blinds, and I wave with my free hand. Some things don't change. Nosy neighbors, a mother's instinct to protect, the way worry tastes like copper pennies on your tongue. "Come on, baby," I whisper into her hair. "Let's go inside, and you tell me what's got you so scared." Her living room smells like vanilla candles and the sage she burns when she's stressed, the scent mixing with the lingering aroma of the curry she must have made for lunch. We settle on her couch, the same burgundy sectional I helped her pick out, now worn soft in all the right places, and she curls up next to me like she's still small enough to fit entirely in my lap. "Mama, I got some news today," she starts, her voice barely above a whisper. "About Marcus." My heart stops. My grandson, my sweet boy who's been fighting leukemia for 2 years, who's been through more in his 12 years than most adults face in a lifetime. I've been so focused on my own battles today that I haven't thought about his ongoing war, and guilt floods through me like ice water. "What kind of news?" I ask, though every instinct I have is screaming that I don't want to know. Keisha pulls back to look at me, and I see tears tracking down her cheeks. But there's something else in her expression. Something I can't quite read. "The doctors called this morning. His latest blood work came back." She pauses, and in that silence, I hear everything. The tick of the grandfather clock her ex-husband left behind, the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the distant sound of children playing in someone else's yard. Normal sounds of a normal day, but nothing about this moment feels normal. "Mama, he's in remission. Complete remission. They want to see him again in 2 weeks to confirm, but Dr. Patterson says she's never seen numbers this good. Marcus is going to be okay." The words don't process at first. I've been braced for the worst news, steeled for another fight, another mountain to climb. Joy, when it comes, is harder to absorb than grief. It requires a complete recalibration of everything you thought you knew about what was coming next. "Remission?" I repeat, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "You mean he's going to live, Mama. My baby's going to live." We cry together then, holding each other on that worn burgundy couch. 15 years of accumulated fear and hope and exhaustion pouring out in great, gasping sobs. I think about this morning, walking into that conference room with my heart hammering, not knowing if I was about to be fired or vindicated. I think about the phone call from Patricia, the flowers on my desk, Janet Rodriguez's handshake, and now this, the best news possible, delivered at the end of a day that already felt like a miracle. When we finally stop crying, Keisha makes tea, the good stuff, loose-leaf Earl Grey that she keeps for special occasions. The bergamot scent fills her kitchen as she moves around, pulling out her grandmother's china teacups, the ones with the tiny roses that Mama left to her. My hands shake slightly as I accept the delicate cup, steam rising to warm my face. "I kept thinking about you today," Keisha says, settling across from me at her small kitchen table. "About how you taught me to fight for what's right, even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. I think about great-grandmother Essie saving every penny, about grandmother Ruth walking into that library with her head high, about Mama working 2 jobs and never complaining. About myself this morning, walking into that conference room despite every instinct telling me to keep my head down and my mouth shut. Fighting runs in our family, I tell her, reaching across the table to take her hand. Her skin is soft, the nails bitten short from stress, but her grip is strong. Your great-great-grandmother fought to own land. Your great-grandmother fought to read books. Your grandmother fought to give me opportunities she never had. I fought today to make sure other women don't have to endure what I endured. And you've been fighting for Marcus every single day for 2 years? And we won, she says, wonder in her voice. We actually won. The tea tastes like celebration, like hope, like all the good things I thought might be impossible. Outside, the sun is setting, painting Keisha's kitchen walls golden. In a few hours, I'll go home to my own house, call my sister Denise to share the news, maybe sit on my front porch and think about how much has changed in a single day. But right now, I'm exactly where I need to be, at my daughter's kitchen table, drinking tea from my mother's china, celebrating victories that seemed impossible this morning. Marcus will come home from school tomorrow and find out his nightmare is over. Keisha will sleep peacefully for the first time in months, and I'll go to work tomorrow in an office where women are safe, where speaking truth is rewarded instead of punished, where justice actually exists. The phone rings, and Keisha glances at the caller ID. It's Marcus, she says, her face lighting up in a way I haven't seen in 2 years. He's at his dad's, but I told him I'd call with news about the test results. She answers with joy radiating from every word. Baby boy, Mama's got something to tell you. I listen to her explain the test results in terms a 12-year-old can understand. Watch her face transform as she hears his whoop of excitement through the phone. This is what victory looks like. Not a boardroom or a press conference or a trophy, but a mother telling her son he's going to live, a grandmother watching 3 generations of strength converge in a single moment of pure joy. When she hangs up, we sit in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of good news settling around us like a blessing. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new fights, new mountains to climb. But today, we won everything that mattered. Mama, Keisha says finally, tell me about what happened at work. Patricia called and said something big went down, but she wouldn't give me details. So I tell her everything. Morrison's inappropriate behavior, the meeting with Janet Rodriguez, the board's response, my promotion. I tell her about walking into that conference room feeling like David facing Goliath, and walking out feeling like I'd reclaimed something precious that had been stolen from me. I'm so proud of you, she says when I finish, tears fresh in her eyes. You taught me that courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing what's right even when you are scared. Today, you showed me what that looks like. The evening deepens around us, comfortable and warm. We order Chinese takeout and eat it from the containers, talking about Marcus's future, about my new position, about all the possibilities that have opened up in a single day. When I finally drive home, the streets are quiet. Most people settled in for the night. My house welcomes me with familiar scents. The lavender potpourri in the front hall, the lingering aroma of this morning's coffee, the vanilla candles I light when I need comfort. But tonight, comfort isn't what I need. Tonight, I need to savor the taste of victory, to let the reality of change sink into my bones. I call Denise, and we talk for an hour about everything that's happened. She cries when I tell her about Marcus, cheers when I tell her about Morrison's firing, and laughs when I describe Janet Rodriguez's handshake and the promotion I never saw coming. Mama would be so proud, she says before we hang up. You know that, right? She raised us to be strong, But seeing you today, standing up like that, claiming your power, she'd be bursting with pride. After we hang up, I sit on my front porch in the darkness, listening to the night sounds of my neighborhood. A dog barking 3 houses down, the distant hum of traffic on the main road, the rustle of wind through the old oak tree in my front yard. These are the sounds of my life, the soundtrack to 63 years of learning how to be strong, how to survive, how to thrive. But tonight, for the first time in longer than I can remember, they sound like freedom. The phone rings at 5:47 a.m., cutting through my dreams like a blade. My hand finds the receiver before my mind fully surfaces, muscle memory from decades of emergency calls about Mama, about Keisha, about life's inevitable crises that always seem to arrive in the dark hours before dawn. Mrs. Washington? The voice is young, professional, careful. This is Dr. Sarah Chen from Children's Hospital. I'm calling about Marcus Williams. I believe he's your grandson. The words hit me like ice water, washing away every trace of yesterday's victory. My bare feet hit the hardwood floor, and I'm moving before I'm fully conscious, pulling on yesterday's clothes while cradling the phone against my shoulder. The African print blouse feels different now. Not like armor, but like something fragile that might tear if I breathe too hard. What happened? My voice comes out steady, but my hands shake as I search for my keys. The morning light filtering through my bedroom curtains seems wrong. Too pale, too thin. Is he? He's stable, she says quickly, and I can breathe again. But there's been a complication with his treatment. His mother is here, and she specifically asked us to call you. Can you come in? The drive to the hospital passes in a blur of traffic lights and half-remembered prayers. My grandmother's voice echoes in my head, the same words she whispered when I was small and scared. Lord, cover us with your wings. Keep our baby safe in the shadow of your love. My hands grip the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ache, and I can smell my own fear sweat mixing with the lingering traces of cocoa butter on my skin. The pediatric wing smells like industrial disinfectant, and that particular sadness that hangs over places where children fight battles they shouldn't have to fight. My heels click against the polished linoleum, each step echoing off the walls covered in cheerful murals that can't quite mask the underlying grief that permeates this place. I find Keisha in the family waiting room, curled into one of those uncomfortable hospital chairs, still wearing the clothes from yesterday. Her natural hair is wrapped in a silk scarf, but wisps have escaped to frame her face, making her look younger than her 35 years. When she sees me, she unfolds from the chair and falls into my arms, and I can feel her whole body trembling. The new treatment isn't working, she whispers against my shoulder. His numbers are worse. They want to try something experimental, but the side effects. Her voice breaks, and I hold her tighter, breathing in the familiar scent of her shea butter leave-in conditioner mixed with hospital soap. Around us, other families wait in various stages of hope and despair. A young mother rocks a baby who can't be more than 6 months old, humming what sounds like a lullaby under her breath. 2 women who look like sisters sit side by side, sharing a box of tissues and speaking in quiet Spanish. An older woman, maybe my age, reads aloud from what looks like a children's book to an empty chair, practicing for a grandchild I can't see but can feel in the careful cadence of her voice. Where is he now? I ask, pulling back to look at Keisha's face. Her eyes are red-rimmed but dry. She's cried herself out, reached that place beyond tears where only action matters. With Dr. Chen, they're running more tests. She wipes her nose with the back of her hand, a gesture so familiar from her childhood that my heart clenches. Mama, I don't know what to do. Yesterday felt like such a victory, and now... Yesterday was a victory, I say firmly, taking her hands in mine. Her fingers are cold, and I rub them between my palms, trying to warm life back into her. Just because today brought new challenges doesn't erase what we won yesterday. That's not how life works, baby girl. We celebrate the victories and fight the new battles as they come. She nods, but I can see the doubt in her eyes, the way trauma makes you question every good thing that happens, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I know that look. I've worn it myself more times than I can count. Dr. Chen appears in the doorway, clipboard in hand, her expression carefully neutral in that way doctors learn to mask either very good or very bad news. She's younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and the sort of competent presence that makes you trust her immediately. "Mrs. Williams? Mrs. Washington?" she says, settling into the chair across from us. "I want to talk to you both about Marcus's options." The next hour passes in a haze of medical terminology and statistics that blur together like numbers in a bad dream. Words like experimental protocol and increased toxicity and quality of life considerations float around us while I hold Keisha's hand and watch my daughter's face cycle through hope and fear and determination and despair. But it's when Dr. Chen mentions the cost, the insurance battles, the potential for financial ruin, the reality that this experimental treatment might bankrupt our family even if it saves Marcus's life, that I feel something shift inside me. The same feeling I had yesterday morning, walking into that conference room to face Morrison. The recognition that sometimes you have to risk everything to save what matters most. "How much?" I ask quietly, and Dr. Chen names a figure that makes Keisha gasp and put her hand over her mouth. "Mama, no!" Keisha says immediately, reading my expression. "We can't ask you to." "You're not asking," I interrupt. "I'm offering. I have savings, and after yesterday's promotion, I'll have access to better insurance options. We'll figure it out." "Mrs. Washington," Dr. Chen says gently, "I want to make sure you understand the risks. This treatment is still in trials. There are no guarantees, and the side effects can be severe. Some families choose to focus on comfort care instead." The words hang in the air between us like a death sentence wrapped in medical politeness. Comfort care, giving up, letting my grandson slip away while we hold his hand and tell him it's okay to go. "No." The word comes out harder than I intended, echoing off the waiting room walls. Around us, other families look up, and I lower my voice, but not my intensity. "No, we don't give up on our children. Not in this family. Not ever." I think about my great-great-grandmother, who walked barefoot for miles to find work that would feed her babies. I think about my great-grandmother, who learned to read by candlelight so she could teach her children. I think about my mother, who worked 2 jobs and still found time to braid my hair and help me with homework and tell me I could be anything I wanted to be. "We try the treatment," I say, looking between Dr. Chen and Keisha. "We fight with everything we have, and we trust God with the rest." Keisha starts crying then, not the desperate sobs of earlier, but tears of relief and gratitude, and the kind of love that passes between mothers and daughters when words aren't enough. She leans against me, and I stroke her hair the way I did when she was small, and the world seemed too big and scary to navigate alone. "Are you sure, Mama?" she whispers. "Baby girl, I have never been more sure of anything in my life." Dr. Chen nods, making notes on her clipboard. "I'll start the paperwork for the treatment protocol. We'll need to move quickly. Ideally, we'd like to begin within the next few days." After she leaves, Keisha and I sit in the relative quiet of the waiting room, processing the magnitude of what we've just committed to. The morning sun has grown stronger, streaming through the windows and highlighting the dust motes that dance in the air like tiny prayers made visible. I'm scared, Keisha admits, her voice small. So am I tell her. But fear doesn't mean we stop fighting. It just means we're fighting for something that matters. My phone buzzes with a text from Patricia. Heard about Marcus. Whatever you need, we've got your back. The whole office is praying. Then another from Janet Rodriguez. Taking care of family is always the priority. Your position will be here when you're ready. And finally, one from Denise. On my way, nobody fights alone in this family. I show the messages to Keisha, and she smiles through her tears. Look at all these women, she says wonderfully. Look at this army we've built. She's right. In the span of 24 hours, I've gone from feeling isolated and powerless to being surrounded by a network of women who understand that sometimes love means showing up in hospital waiting rooms, that sometimes strength means sharing your resources, that sometimes victory means choosing to hope when hope seems impossible. Marcus appears in the doorway then, wearing a hospital gown that's too big for his thin frame, but his smile is pure sunshine. His head is covered by a colorful knit cap that one of the volunteer ladies must have made, and despite everything, the treatments, the uncertainty, the fear that follows us like a shadow, he moves toward us with the resilience that only children seem to possess. Grandma, he says, launching himself into my arms. He smells like hospital soap and childhood sweetness, and when I hold him close, I can feel his heartbeat against my chest, steady and strong and absolutely determined to keep going. Hey, baby boy, I whisper into his ear. Grandma's here, we're all here, and we're going to fight this thing together. He pulls back to look at me, his eyes serious in that way that children get when they understand more than adults think they do. Mama told me about the new medicine. She said it might make me sicker before it makes me better. That's right, I say honestly. But you know what? Sometimes the hardest fights are the most important ones, and you've got the strongest family in the world standing with you. Are you scared? He asks. I consider lying, giving him some adult platitude about everything being fine. But this child has been fighting cancer for 2 years. He deserves the truth. Yes, I tell him. I'm scared because I love you so much. But being scared doesn't mean we quit. It means we love each other extra hard and trust that love will carry us through. He nods solemnly, then grins. Mama said you got a new job yesterday. She said you're going to be the boss of some stuff now. That's right, I say, laughing despite everything. I'm going to be the boss of making sure people are treated fairly at work, kind of like how you're the boss of being brave in the hospital. Can I come visit your office sometime, when I'm better? The casual confidence in those words, when I'm better, not if, hits me like a revelation. This 12-year-old boy has more faith than any of us, and suddenly, I understand that our job isn't to carry his hope for him. Our job is to match it, to rise to the level of courage he's already showing us every single day. Absolutely, I promise. When you're better, you can come see Grandma's new office, and I'll introduce you to all the ladies who've been praying for you. The rest of the day passes in a blur of paperwork and phone calls and the strange suspended time that exists in hospitals, where minutes stretch like hours, but somehow entire afternoons disappear without notice. Denise arrives with a bag of comfort food, cornbread from our favorite bakery, homemade chicken soup, sweet potato pie that she made at 4 a.m. because she couldn't sleep. We eat in Marcus's room, turning it into an impromptu family gathering. Marcus tells us about the video game one of the nurses brought him, about the therapy dog that visits on Wednesdays, about his plans for when he gets out of the hospital. Keisha updates us on the treatment schedule, the logistics we'll need to coordinate, the ways our lives will reshape themselves around this new reality. But it's when visiting hours end, and I'm walking to my car in the hospital parking garage, that the full weight of the day hits me. 24 hours ago, I was preparing to confront Morrison, terrified of losing my job, convinced that speaking up would cost me everything I'd worked for. Now, I have a promotion. A sexual predator has been removed from power, and I've committed my life savings to an experimental treatment that might save my grandson's life. The fluorescent lights in the parking garage flicker overhead, casting strange shadows between the concrete pillars. My footsteps echo in the cavernous space, and I can smell car exhaust mixed with the lingering traces of hospital disinfectant on my clothes. When I reach my car, I sit for a moment in the driver's seat, hands resting on the steering wheel, trying to process the magnitude of everything that's changed. My phone rings, and I see Patricia's name on the caller ID. "How are you holding up, honey?" she asks without preamble. "I don't know," I admit. Yesterday, I felt like I could conquer the world. Today, I feel like the world is trying to conquer me. "That's how it works sometimes," she says gently. "Life gives you victories and challenges all mixed together. The trick is remembering that you're strong enough to handle both." We talk for a few minutes about practical things: how long I might need to be away from the office, what coverage we'll need to arrange, the ways the other women in our department are already planning to step up and support each other. But underneath the logistics, I can hear something else in Patricia's voice. The recognition that we're all part of something bigger now, a network of women who've learned to show up for each other in ways that go far beyond the workplace. When I finally drive home, the streets are dark, except for the glow of streetlights and the occasional lit window in the houses I pass. My neighborhood welcomes me with familiar sights. Mrs. Johnson's porch light that she leaves on for her grandson who works late shifts. The corner house with the beautiful garden that blooms even in winter. The old oak trees that have watched over these streets for decades. Inside my house, I make a cup of chamomile tea and sit at my kitchen table. The same table where I ate breakfast yesterday morning before everything changed. The silence feels different now. Not lonely, but expectant, like the pause between lightning and thunder when you know something powerful is coming. I think about Marcus, probably sleeping now in his hospital bed, dreaming whatever dreams 12-year-old boys have when they're fighting for their lives. I think about Keisha, finally resting after months of carrying this burden largely alone. I think about all the women who showed up today without being asked, who understood instinctively that sometimes love means rearranging your entire life around someone else's crisis. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. The treatment will begin, with all its uncertainties and risks. I'll need to navigate my new position at work while being available for my family. There will be insurance battles and medical decisions and the 1,000 small crises that accompany any serious illness. But tonight, in the quiet of my kitchen, drinking tea from my mother's china, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Complete clarity about who I am and what I'm fighting for. Not just my job, not just my family, but the principle that love requires action, that strength means showing up even when you're terrified, that sometimes the most important battles are the ones where victory isn't guaranteed. I pull out a piece of paper and start writing, a letter to Marcus that I'll give him when he's older, when he can understand the full scope of what we're all fighting for. I tell him about his great-great-great-grandmother, about the chain of strong women who brought us to this moment. I tell him about yesterday's victory at work, about how sometimes standing up to bullies creates ripples that spread far beyond what you can see. I tell him that courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about choosing love over fear, action over paralysis, hope over despair. By the time I finish writing, the tea has grown cold, and the first hints of dawn are beginning to lighten the sky outside my kitchen window. In a few hours, I'll shower and dress and drive back to the hospital to begin this new phase of our fight. I'll sit with Keisha while Marcus receives his first dose of experimental medicine, and we'll pray together that science and love and stubborn determination will be enough to save his life. But right now, in this moment between night and morning, I feel the presence of all the women who came before me. Their strength flowing through me like a river, their voices whispering encouragement, their hands steadying mine as I prepare to fight the most important battle of my life. The phone rings again, and this time it's Keisha. "Mama," she says, her voice thick with sleep. "I couldn't rest. I keep thinking about everything, and I needed to hear your voice." "I'm here, baby girl," I tell her. "I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere." "Are we going to be okay?" she asks, and I hear the little girl in her voice, the child who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms and ask me to make the scary sounds go away. I look out my kitchen window at the lightening sky, at the world waking up to possibilities I couldn't have imagined just 2 days ago. "Yes," I tell her with absolute certainty. "We're going to be more than okay. We're going to be victorious." The early morning air carries the scent of honeysuckle from Mrs. Patterson's fence when I arrive at the hospital the next day, my hands steady on the steering wheel in a way they haven't been in months. The parking garage smells like concrete and motor oil, but when I step into the elevator, I catch a whiff of cocoa butter from my own skin. The same Palmer's lotion Mama used to rub into my elbows when I was small, the ritual I've carried forward without thinking about it. Keisha is already in the family waiting room, her natural hair pulled back in a silk headband that catches the morning light streaming through the windows. She looks up when I enter, and I see something different in her face. Not the desperate hope from yesterday, but a kind of settled determination that reminds me of my own reflection this morning. "How did you sleep, baby?" I ask, settling into the chair beside her. The vinyl cushion is warm from where she's been sitting, and I can smell the faint lavender from whatever lotion she's using on her hands. "Better than I expected," she says, and her voice has lost that brittle edge it's carried for weeks. "I dreamed about Daddy. He was sitting right here in this chair, telling me that Marcus has his stubborn streak, the good kind that doesn't give up even when things get hard." I reach for her hand, feeling the calluses on her palm from all the nights she spent gripping hospital bed rails, all the hours she's worked extra shifts to pay for treatments insurance wouldn't cover. "Your daddy would be so proud of how you're handling all this, of how you've fought for our boy." The nurse who comes to get us is different from yesterday. A young sister with intricate braids pinned up under her cap and a smile that reaches her eyes. "Good morning, ladies. Marcus is asking for his mom and grandmama. He's been up since 5:30, wanting to know when the real medicine was going to start." Walking down the hall, I notice things I missed in yesterday's panic. The way sunlight streams through the tall windows, painting everything golden. The sound of children's laughter coming from the playroom. The artwork on the walls, bright and hopeful. The antiseptic smell is still there, but it's mixed now with something else. Fresh coffee from the nurse's station, the green scent of plants someone has placed by the windows, the warm smell of breakfast being delivered to rooms. Marcus is sitting up in bed when we enter his room, looking smaller than his 12 years, but with eyes that seem older, more knowing. His complexion has that grayish undertone that comes with serious illness, but when he sees us, his face lights up with a grin that's pure joy. "Grandmama, Mama said you got a promotion yesterday. She said you told off some white man who was being disrespectful to the women at your job." I laugh despite myself. settling into the chair beside his bed and taking his hand in mine. His fingers are thin but warm, and I can feel his pulse beating steady and strong against my palm. Well, I wouldn't put it quite like that, but yes, your old grandmama stood up for herself and some other ladies who needed backup. That's what I'm talking about, he says, and his voice carries an echo of his grandfather's pride. You know what Nurse Beverly told me this morning? She said the medicine they're giving me is new, like experimental new. She said, I'm going to be helping other kids who might get sick like me, because the doctors will learn from what happens with my treatment. Keisha leans forward, smoothing his hospital gown with gentle hands. How do you feel about that, baby? About being one of the first kids to try this treatment? Marcus is quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the city waking up below us. When he speaks, his voice has a seriousness that catches in my chest. I feel like I'm part of something bigger than just me being sick, you know? Like maybe this whole thing happened so I could help other kids not have to go through all this. I have to blink back tears because this child, this beautiful, brave child, is showing me what grace looks like. Not the kind they talk about in church on Sundays, but the real kind that comes from facing your worst fears and choosing to believe that your pain might have purpose. The doctor arrives with 2 residents, a young woman with natural hair under her white coat and an older man with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Dr. Martinez explains the treatment protocol again, her voice gentle but thorough, making sure we understand both the hopes and the risks. The experimental drug will be administered over the next 6 weeks, with constant monitoring, frequent blood draws, possible side effects that range from manageable to serious. The early trials have been promising, she says, looking directly at Marcus rather than over his head at us adults. But I want you to know that this is still very much an experiment. We're hoping for the best outcome, but we need to be prepared for any possibility. Marcus nods with a maturity that breaks my heart. I understand, Dr. Martinez. I want to try it. Even if it doesn't work for me, maybe it'll work better for the next kid. After the medical team leaves, we sit in comfortable silence for a while. I watch Keisha help Marcus with his breakfast. Scrambled eggs that smell like butter and pepper, orange juice that catches the light like liquid sunshine, toast that crumbles golden across his hospital tray. These ordinary moments feel precious now, weighted with meaning I couldn't have understood before. Around 10 o'clock, Patricia appears in the doorway with a small bouquet of flowers from her garden, marigolds and zinnias that smell like earth and summer. Behind her are 3 other women from the office, Sandra from accounting, Maria from human resources, and Janet Rodriguez herself, looking less intimidating in jeans and a sweater than she did yesterday in her power suit. We hope it's okay that we came, Patricia says softly. We just wanted Marcus to know that he has a whole office full of women praying for him. Marcus grins and invites them all in, chattering about the treatment and asking Janet about her job and whether she really does fire people, or if that's just what everyone thinks she does. She laughs, a real laugh that transforms her entire face, and tells him that mostly she hires people and tries to make sure they're treated fairly at work. Like what your grandmama did yesterday, she says. She made sure that fairness wasn't just something we talk about in meetings, but something we actually practice. I watch these women, some I've known for years, others I barely knew before yesterday, and I see something beautiful happening. They're not here because they have to be, or because it looks good, or because someone asked them to come. They're here because when one of us hurts, we all feel it. When one of our children is in danger, we all show up to stand guard. Maria has brought a small wooden cross that her grandmother carved, blessed by her parish priest. Sandra offers to coordinate meals for Keisha's family. Janet quietly slips Keisha a business card with her personal cell phone number and whispers something about family medical leave that makes Keisha's eyes fill with grateful tears. After they leave, the three of us settle into a different kind of quiet. Marcus dozes between medical checks, his breathing steady and peaceful. Keisha works on a crossword puzzle, occasionally asking me for help with clues that require knowledge from before she was born. Old TV shows, historical events, songs from my youth. "Grandmama," Marcus says during one of his wakeful periods, "will you tell me about Daddy again? About when he was my age?" So, I tell him about his grandfather as a boy, how he used to catch fireflies in mason jars and release them just before bedtime, how he learned to cook by standing on a step stool beside his mama in the kitchen, how he once got in trouble for giving away his lunch money to a classmate whose family didn't have enough food. I tell him about the way his daddy's eyes lit up when he talked about his dreams of being a teacher, about how he met his mama at a church social and knew within 5 minutes that he was going to marry her. "He sounds like he was brave," Marcus says. "He was," I agree. "But not the kind of brave that means you're not scared. The kind that means you do the right thing even when you are scared, just like you're doing now." The afternoon brings more visitors: Keisha's best friend Angela with her 2 daughters, my neighbor Mrs. Washington with a container of her famous mac and cheese, my cousin Denise, who drives up from Richmond just to sit with us for an hour. The room fills with the sound of women's voices, with laughter and tears and prayers spoken in half whispers. I watch Keisha during these visits, seeing how she's changed since yesterday. The desperate edge in her voice is gone, replaced by something steadier. She's still scared, we all are, but she's not carrying the fear alone anymore. It's distributed now among all of us, shared, and therefore manageable. Around 4 o'clock, when visiting hours are ending and the room has grown quiet again, Marcus asks if he can talk to just me and his mama for a minute. The nurse who's been checking his vitals, Nurse Beverly, a sister with silver-streaked locks and gentle hands, nods and steps outside to give us privacy. "I want to tell you both something," Marcus says, his voice serious. "Even if this treatment doesn't work, even if I don't get better, I need you to know that I'm not scared of dying. Not really. I mean, I don't want to die, but I'm not scared of it." Keisha's breath catches, but she doesn't interrupt. "What I'm scared of," he continues, "is you two being sad forever. I'm scared of Mama not laughing anymore and Grandmama not telling stories about the old days. I'm scared that if something happens to me, you'll forget how to be happy." I reach for both of their hands, feeling the warmth of their skin, the pulse of life running through their veins. "Baby boy," I say, my voice thick with emotion, "happiness isn't something we forget. It's something that changes, but it doesn't disappear. If the worst happens, we'll find new ways to be happy. We'll find ways to carry your joy with us, to honor your memory by living fully. But right now," Keisha adds, her voice stronger than I've heard it in months, "right now, we're going to focus on getting you well. We're going to take this one day at a time, one treatment at a time, and we're going to believe in the possibility of miracles." Marcus smiles, not the forced brightness he's been showing for weeks, but a real smile that reaches his eyes. "Okay, I can do that. One day at a time." The sun is setting when I finally leave the hospital, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that remind me of the sunset from my kitchen window yesterday morning. Was it really only yesterday? The parking garage echoes with the sound of my heels on concrete, but the sound doesn't feel hollow anymore. It feels purposeful, like I'm walking toward something instead of away from it. Driving through my neighborhood, I notice things with new eyes again, but different from this morning. This time, I see the continuity of it all, the way life keeps moving forward regardless of our individual crises and victories. Children are playing in front yards, their voices carrying on the evening air. Porch lights are beginning to come on, creating pools of warmth in the gathering dusk. Somewhere, someone is cooking dinner. I can smell onions and garlic and something savory that makes my stomach remember I haven't eaten since breakfast. At home, I find 3 messages on my answering machine. The first is from Patricia, letting me know that she's arranged coverage for my desk and that I should take as much time as I need. The second is from Janet Rodriguez, following up on some paperwork related to Morrison's departure. Apparently, he's been asked to take early retirement, effective immediately. The third message makes me sit down hard in my kitchen chair. It's from Marcus's doctor, Dr. Martinez, calling to let me know that his first treatment session went even better than expected. His blood work is showing positive responses already, and while it's still very early, the signs are encouraging. I play the message 3 times, each time feeling a little more of the tight knot in my chest begin to loosen. Then I call Keisha and play it for her over the phone, listening to her cry. Not the desperate tears of the past weeks, but the relieved sobs of a mother who's been holding her breath for so long, she'd forgotten what normal breathing felt like. After we hang up, I sit in my kitchen as darkness settles outside my windows. The silence feels different now. Not empty or expectant, but full. Full of possibilities, of hope, of the knowledge that sometimes the most important battles are won not through dramatic gestures, but through the accumulated weight of small acts of courage, of love, of showing up day after day, even when the outcome is uncertain. I think about Morrison, probably at home tonight, wondering how his comfortable world got turned upside down so quickly. I think about Patricia, who found her voice after years of keeping other people's secrets. I think about all the women who showed up today, without being asked, who understood instinctively that love requires presence, that strength is multiplied when shared. But mostly, I think about Marcus, sleeping peacefully in his hospital bed with medicine flowing through his veins. Medicine that might save his life. Medicine that will definitely help save other children's lives. I think about his courage, his grace, his understanding that sometimes our greatest challenges become our most important contributions to the world. Tomorrow will bring new uncertainties. The treatment will continue, with all its risks and possibilities. I'll return to work eventually, to a changed dynamic and new responsibilities. There will be more battles to fight, more injustices to confront, more moments when courage will be required. But tonight, in the quiet of my kitchen, surrounded by the familiar sense of home, the lingering aroma of coffee from this morning, the faint sweetness of the African violets on my windowsill, the clean smell of the dish soap I used to wash my mother's china, I feel something I haven't felt in years. I feel victorious, not because everything is perfect, not because all our problems are solved, but because I know now what I'm capable of. I know that I can stand up to bullies and comfort frightened children and coordinate care for sick family members and show up for other women who need support. I know that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about choosing love over fear, action over paralysis, hope over despair. I pull out a piece of paper and continue the letter I started writing to Marcus yesterday, telling him about today, about the women who came to visit him, about the way his bravery is inspiring everyone around him. I tell him about the chain of strong women who brought us to this moment, about how his great-great-great-grandmother would be so proud to see the man he's becoming even at 12 years old. By the time I finish writing, My tea has grown cold again, and the house has settled into the deep quiet of night. In a few hours, I'll shower and dress and drive back to the hospital to sit with my family while Marcus receives his second dose of experimental medicine. We'll pray together and hope together and fight together for his life. But right now, in this moment between day and night, I feel the presence of all the women who came before me and all the women who stood with me today. Their strength flows through me like a river. Their voices whisper encouragement. Their hands steady mine as I prepare for whatever tomorrow brings. The phone doesn't ring this time. The silence holds, comfortable and complete. Outside my kitchen window, the world sleeps peacefully, and I know that when morning comes, we'll all wake up a little bit stronger, a little bit braver, a little bit more ready to face whatever challenges and joys await us. I am Vanessa. I am 63 years old. I am a grandmother, a mother, a woman who learned how to fight when fighting was required. I am part of a long line of strong women who understood that love requires action, that courage can be quiet, and that sometimes the most important victories are the ones that happen when nobody's watching. And tomorrow, I'll wake up ready to continue the fight,